welcome back to my channel, and today I'll be doing watercolors. So first I did the sketch. I was trying to go for a more wisteria plant feeling, and the only reason why I drew the sketch and I decided to do this watercolor is because I wanted to practice a bit before I worked on the main project for this video. I did a couple of watercolor stuff before, such as these two hibiscus flowers, and of course Free Run. If you saw on my Instagram, I also did Free Run from Free Run Beyond the Journey's End. So I did get a little practice in like a few days before, but before I got into the main project for this day, I decided to practice with some wisteria flowers. I'm not sure if they actually look like wisteria flowers. To me, they kind of look like grapes, that I'm thinking about it, but they do have similar colors to grapes, wisteria flowers, so I'm not that much surprised. Honestly, I didn't spend a lot of time on the sketch. I just wanted something to practice watercolor and kind of get a feel for it, because I do have to say watercolor is one of the most difficult art mediums to do for traditional artists, especially for me. I think watercolor and oil paint are like two main ones that are very difficult to use, so I needed to practice a bit before getting into the main stuff. So for the main project, I got this tracing pad from Five and Below for $5, and I was so happy about that because they were on Amazon for like $10-15. So I was so happy when I saw this at Five and Below. And this is just me unboxing it, showing you what it comes with. So it just comes with a light pad and like a USB cord to plug it in. I had to get my own wall plug, which was no problem because I have plenty of wall plugs. And this is how it worked. I wasn't sure if it was going to work extremely well with the watercolor paper, but surprisingly it did. And so for the project for this video, I decided to do Yor Forger from Spike's family in her red sweater form. So this is how it came out when I traced it. So for the Yor Forger watercolor, I surprisingly, even with all the practice, I had the most issue with this one rather than the Free One. The Free One, I guess it's because I was on the camera, because the Free One I did mostly off camera, except for a few clips that I took here and there to do some YouTube and some TikToks and some Instagram reels, which don't take a lot of footage. But for Yor, I recorded the whole process from almost start to finish. There's a few gaps in between where I just had to take off the camera and just focus on making it look like Yor, because I was struggling so much. I don't know if it was like me and my camera shyness, which does happen sometimes, especially when you're doing something on camera. You tend to struggle more because you're like hoping it comes out good and you become anxious and stuff and you overthink stuff. But you know, at the end you can see that it's Yor, and I'm kind of proud that I continued doing it, because at first I was just going to scrap this video idea and just not continue it because I was disappointed at how it was coming out. But I persevered and I pushed through, and eventually it did come out decently well. Not as well as I wanted to, so I probably should do some more practice, but it came out fairly well to the point where I wanted to make it into a video. So I think that was the important part, is that even though it wasn't working at first, it's still I still pushed through and it still came out alright, I would say. So the first issue I had was the skin. The skin was looking kind of blotchy. So if you probably noticed by now, I have two different set of watercolors. One of them is a cheap watercolor that I think I got for my Christmas many years ago. So they're very old, and they kind of come out a bit chalky. That's how I know they're a bit cheap, on the cheaper side. And the next set is a newer set of watercolors that I got very recently for my 21st birthday. And these have a lot less colors, but they're a lot more vibrant and just overall very smooth and very easy to apply. So I kind of like did a kind of like mashup of the two per se, because I don't have enough on the nice watercolors to only use those. So I had to use some of the chocolate watercolors that I had from before, and it made the skin look very blotchy because I only used the watercolors from the chalky set when I was doing the skin, because those are the only colors I had that would work for the skin. And I was kind of disappointed at how the skin turned out, but I was like, you know what, I'll fix it later and it'll probably look better with line art. So let me move on to the hair. So I did move on to the hair, and at first it was going decently well. I wasn't liking how pigmented the top was compared to the bottom, but that is an easy fix. Either I add more water to the top or I add more pigment to the bottom. That's not it most difficult thing to do. When I got to the other side, you're gonna see in a little bit, I accidentally put too much watercolor on that side. So you can see the second side compared to the first side is super pigmented, and it was also very wet. So some of the watercolor was actually going towards the skin, and I did try to fix this later, but it ended up being more work because then I would put too much water on it and it would just look a bit blotchy and weird. So I had to like damp it, like take a damp cloth, like try to lift it, and then kind of redo that section. So I tried to fix that section, and I think I got it okay. So as you see here, I'm trying to reapply the watercolor so it's more even throughout the entire hair instead of one area being more pigmented than the other. So that's what I was trying to do. And I was also trying to smooth out my lines because I realized my lines were very crooked and it didn't look as neat as I wanted to. And then I realized that like I was trying to get some shadows in because I wanted it to have some depth. And I realized that since the black watercolor is so like dark, because I had a couple of grays, but I didn't like how the grays look. So I just went in with black, and I thought I could just layer on the watercolor. That was kind of a mistake on my part because I didn't realize how hard it would be to like layer, especially these watercolors on top of each other. So the color kind of just like blend in together and you can't really see much of a difference. It looks a bit better now that I think about it on camera, but in person it looked very similar. So I had to like try and figure out how to like add more depth to the hair. So then I switched over to the more decent watercolors that I got, and these are like newer and probably more expensive. Honestly, it was a gift, so I wasn't sure. And these are so nice and smooth. So I had a good time painting like the sweater dress because the sweater dress was all red basically, and I had two different shades of red. This one is a more orangey red. You can see it looks more orange on camera, but I promise you in person it's actually red. And I was just going in with that one, and then I used a smaller brush to do the top. And then after I finished with this, I used the darker, more deeper red to put in some shades, some folds into the sweater. And overall, it just turned out really good. As you can see, probably by now, I was using just like two brushes that I had. I mean, I have more brushes, but these were the two I felt most comfortable using watercolor with. I think I used one of them for the other time I did it. And then I used a smaller one for fine details. So this is mistake number 2. I wanted to find a way to add some highlights to this hair because I had no idea how to add depth to this hair. And I thought, well, maybe I could add some red because if I blend the red into the black, maybe it will go good because her sweater dress is red and it will give it a nice highlight. I looked back on the red and I realized that first of all, it doesn't blend well once the watercolor's dry. Again, my part, it's just my issue with skill. But not only that, is that the red was just, it looked too saturated for the black that I was using. So instead of looking like a natural highlight in her hair, it looked like Yor decided to just add a streak of red in her hair for some reason, and it looked kind of weird now that I think about it. I tried toning it down a bit by adding more water and like kind of adding more black, and then this happened when I was trying to like do the last remaining part of her hair at the top. I added way too much water to that area, and because of that, a big strike of red just like settled there. So eventually I do have to go back and fix it because it's like way too bright compared to her hair, because her hair technically does not have red in it. I was just putting it in to add an extra highlight to fix my first mistake, and I ended up making it worse. So I took a break, obviously. I needed a break from the hair. So I decided to do the eyes because I was like, what can go wrong? Eyes are literally my most favorite part when it comes to like drawing or doing any art medium regarding characters. And then later, you're not going to see it now. I thought it would be now, but later you'll see it that is also kind of a disaster. But after I put the first layer of red on her eyes, I decided to go in and do like the gold details. So like her earrings and her like gold buttons on her headband, which didn't give me too much issue. It's just that the yellow wasn't like appearing as vibrant as I would like it to. So I had to go in a couple of layers to get it decent. So that's what I did. So that's what I was basically doing. And I went back to do her eyes, and this is when the problems start. One eye worked out well, and I'm pretty sure that's the right eye on my part, but the left eye was just way too much water, and it would completely flood. No matter how many times I tried to like blotch it away and reapply it, it just would keep flooding out. And I keep saying, but I'm not adding any more water than I am for the other eye, so why is this one all of a sudden flooding? So I had to fix it multiple times until I it's not completely fixed, but it's actually like a lot better than how it was before. So in the second part of this video, as you can see, my painting is on its ugly face. And this is the part I hate most about watercolor. Like before the line art and you put all the colors down, it just looks very bad. This one was worse than the freehand ugly face. At least that one looked kind of like okay, but this one was just really bad. So I decided to just add some line art to it. And at first I was going to do the line art off camera, but I was like, yeah, it's fine. Line art isn't too stressful for me. So I decided to do that and try to like fix all of my mistakes. Try to like make it look somewhat decent. And honestly, I know I used most of this time to complain about watercolors, but I feel like once I get the hang of like the medium, it'll actually be a fun and relaxing activity for me, because overall I like how easy it is to apply watercolor to a paper with just adding water. And this is me adding the final touches, and this is how she turned out. Like I said, I wish I did it a bit better. I realized there were some weird splotches on the original, so I just added some black hearts. And this is how she turned out. Honestly, I wish I could have done better, but at the same time, she did come out much better than I thought she would. And this is how the wisteria flowers turned out. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Bye-bye!